Hey, I'm Ása from Iceland and I work as a nature photographer and videographer. In my work I use drones a lot, and today we're gonna go over some drone techniques and my favorite tips and tricks. I've always been very passionate about photography and I started out very young to run around with a camera in my hand, but for the last 4 years I've been working as a freelance photographer. When drones first came out to the market, I was very curious about them, and I actually bought my first Phantom 4 back in the days, and ever since then I've almost owned every single model that DJI has released. Drones are an amazing tool when it comes to photography and videography, and you get a completely different perspective of your images, and having drones can really up your level in both photography and videography. When it comes to choosing a drone, then DJI is the biggest producer. I these days fly the Mavic 2 Pro, and in my opinion I feel like it handles the Icelandic winds the best. So you can think about it as well, the bigger the drone is, the better it's going to handle the winds. And since I shoot in pretty extreme environments, that's important to me. I also have the DJI FPV drone, which is completely different technique than you're flying the whole thing fully manual. But today we're going to focus on regular drones. To get into drone flying is actually super easy and easier than many think. The drones are very user-friendly, they come with a software and a lot of automation that helps you flying. So if you're starting out, I recommend starting to fly in a clear space where you can see the drone and practice a little bit before flying in tight spaces. So before you start flying, you want to go through some of the settings and make sure that all of the settings are correct in order to get the best quality. So what I do, I shoot all of my photos in RAW so that you can edit them the easiest, and the video usually in 4K or in 2K 50 frames a second. So it's just important to go through this before you start flying, because when you start flying you only have limited battery time and it's just good to do it beforehand. So another setting I go through before flying is that I decrease the sensitivity of the control. This is especially important when filming. So I like to decrease the pitch and roll as well as the gimbal sensitivity, and this will make it easier to follow moving subjects and keep them in the frame. So play around a little with these settings to figure out what suits you the best.
The home point has been updated. Please check it on the map.
I also recommend looking into getting some ND filters for more professional photos and videos. For the photos you can do a slow shutter photos, and for the videos it's going to make them look more professional, especially if you're trying to film in a certain frame rate and then the shutter speed has to match that frame rate. For example, if you're shooting in 50 frames a second, you want the shutter speed to be 100, and on a sunny day that will maybe cause the videos to be overexposed, and that's when ND filters come in handy and can up your footage a lot. Then, before you start flying, remember to always check out local flight restrictions. They can change between areas, and I'm not going to go into details of them here because they're always changing, but just remember to check them out before you fly. Another important thing to look out for before taking off is of course the weather. So don't take off in rain, the drones aren't really waterproof, and then look out for the wind. So what I try to keep in mind is where the wind is coming from, and this is especially important if you're, for example, going to send the drone offshore over ocean, and then it's just good to keep in mind that it's all fine to fly into the wind, because then you know that you can make it home safely. But if you have the wind in your back when you're taking off, then it's harder to know if you can make it back or not. Then once you're in the air, the DJI app has a lot of great functions and tools that will help you out with your flying. And this comes both with photos and videos. And one tool that I use a lot is panorama images. So this is more than one image that is stitched together and make it one large image. So go to the menu and select photo and then panorama. So this will allow you to capture a subject in full even if you're close to it. It gives you this wide angle effect because it's taking many images and stitching them together. The best ones to use is either the vertical panorama or the horizontal. Then when it comes to filmmaking with a drone, the most important thing is that you want your film to look smooth and you want to have smooth movements. So the DJI app can also help with this, and one function that I use a lot is called point of interest. Then I can select the subject that I want the drone to circle around, And while it's automatically circling around my subject, I can adjust the altitude for even better looking film. So that was some of my tips for drone flying. So now it's just time to go out there and start flying, because time spent in the air is really the best way to learn. So go fly and have fun. Then look on YouTube or Instagram and watch how other creators are creating movements, and then try to practice those movements and implement them in your work. For more of my work, you can follow me under Instagram at Ása Steinars, and same on YouTube and TikTok. Thank you so much for watching.